I understand the geographic location of American colleges and universities akin to an imperial metropole during the era of US Cold War empire. Foreign students were recruited to study in the US as part of the Cold War strategy of promoting Western ideals, attitudes, and knowledge in the contest with communism. Iranian students at this time were just one population among many foreign student diasporas, although they were by far the largest, numbering 50,000 on the eve of the Iranian Revolution. Those who came in the 1950s and throughout the 1960s were mostly from the upper and middle classes. So they were not marginalized within Iran either. This started to change in the 1970s as some lower middle class children of white collar workers were able to access scholarships. But the overall purpose of having foreign students come to the US was to produce a Western educated third world elite who would return home and develop the nations of Asia, Africa, and Latin America according to US capitalist models and interests. In light of this mission, I have named foreign students of this era, quote unquote, imperial model minorities, and argued that they were supposed to model the benevolence of Pax Americana, or they were supposed to embody the ideal of the US as the indispensable nation spreading progress and hope. And also they were supposed to divert attention away from the fact that all too often this progress came hand in hand with intense state repression from US-backed dictatorships, including that of the Shah. My term, imperial model minority, is in dialogue with Asian American Studies scholarship on model minority immigrant, on the figure of the model minority immigrant or citizen. But I adapted the term to describe the temporary migrant populations of generally elite students and to highlight the global role they were supposed to play in integrating racialized populations and third world economies into the post-World War II US world order. And I'm happy to say more about that in the discussion. It's kind of a quick gloss of a lot there. But the category of imperial model minority, like that of the model minority citizen, was often overwhelmed by the very contradictions it was meant to erase. The process of recruiting and educating imperial model minorities sometimes went terribly awry, resulting in the admission of students who were hostile to US domination over their home countries. I wanted to understand how this process unfolded, how it was that some Iranian imperial model minorities decided to spend their time abroad trying to overthrow the very order they were charged with spreading. I found it necessary to tune in to the registers of affect, which I understand to be the accumulation of lived experiences, bodily intensities filled with potential and indeterminacy, energies that can be channeled into different political directions and worldviews depending on the circumstances. Through the interviews I conducted with former members of the ISA, I learned that the young people who joined this group had experienced a transnational process of radicalization that began with their formative experiences growing up under the Shah's regime. So in the book, I explore childhood memories of repression and resistance in Iran under the Shah that were revealed in the interviews and that traveled with these young people when they came to the US as foreign students, as college students. These memories, as I argue, were kind of loaded with these reservoirs of affective energy, what I call revolutionary affect. So for hundreds and then thousands of Iranian foreign students in the US, the ISA became the vehicle through which they could make sense of affects and emotions that were out of sync with a teleological view of progress that hinged on support for dictatorship. Moreover, the ISA made it possible to do something about this discrepancy. Affect thus became a conduit toward new political horizons, new ideas about what kinds of feelings and actions were permissible and desirable. The concept of revolutionary affects, therefore, refers to the sensorial material out of which a revolutionary consciousness can later be fashioned, and to those affects that attach to and fuel the project of making a revolution. The revolutionary affects of former ISA members were forged through encounters with police state repression and with resistance in Iran, through exposure to leftist ideas and struggle in the US, and also through being in a global context, right, of anti-colonial and anti-racist revolutionary organizing that was happening around the world and was also permeating US society and US campuses by the late 1960s.